Welcome to Keeper of the Mountain. What a wonderful day it is. I'm telling you what, it's been a while since I put out a film, but there's a really good reason for it. You know, I'm always saying that you should do a little bit every day because a lot of littles make a big. Well, in my absence, there's been a lot of littles happening. And let me catch up to speed. Now, you know, the last time I was working on the car, I was trying to figure out the trunk lid and how to make that work and everything. I've pretty much got that figured out. The problem is I ran out of room in my shop. I just don't have room to have the car in the shop and me working on it anymore because the car's getting too big. It's just taking up too much of the shop. Well, the shop is a lot wider. It's like 20 foot by 20 foot, the shop roughly, right in that neighborhood. But there's a wall down the middle of it. And a few things have to happen in order for me to take that wall out. Number one is this is a load-bearing wall. It's holding the middle of the shop up. If I were to just pull this wall out, well, the whole thing would collapse and everyone would die. Once I get everything out of here, I can put a beam along here to support this center. I have to do several things in my garage. Well, number one, I have to put in a temporary wall next to the car to hold the roof up. Then I can pull the wall out, and then I have to pull the floor out, and then I can put a new floor on the other half of the shop that's over there by the, on the other side of the wall from the car, so that I can move the car around on a level floor. Because the floor over there is so bad, it's 100 years old, it has holes rotting through it. In fact, I think there's even a raccoon living under there, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, it smells like raccoon poo, and I've seen one, so I'm pretty sure it's living down there. At any rate, that's not good. So I'm gonna rip that out, probably be a home wrecker for some poor family of raccoons, and all the people that love animals will hate me for it, but I'm sorry. I need my garage. Anyway, in order to do all that, however, I have to take everything out of that side of the garage. Everything's got to go somewhere. So where am I going to put it? It's kind of like one of those slide puzzles, the ones with the little numbers, and you slide this number to move that number to move the other number, and you're trying to get everything in order, and you just keep sliding. Well, that's what we're doing here. So I figured, well, I'll just put everything in the basement. But the last time I put things in the basement to remodel the house, well, yesterday we had a problem with a little bit of water in the basement, and the sump pump, which was never installed correctly, was something I've been fighting with. I'm gonna have to redo the entire basement in order to get this done. I gotta just dig it all up, put in drain tile, put in the proper sump, all that kind of stuff. However, I know the neighbor had a worse flood, and they had a company over pumping it out and everything. And now this morning, today, I come outside and I look in my backyard, and look what I found. Water just puddled up. Look at that. And it's a creek. You can see the water running, coming from the neighbors. So apparently they have a sump pump that's just pumping it out into their yard, which is then running downhill to my place. We look over the fence and see what they have done. Yeah, a hose right over to the fence line, to the backyard. And look at it all just pouring out of there. It's just gushing out right by the fence. So that's now saturating the ground around the back of my house. Flooded my backyard. Now let's take a look at my basement. Holy cow. The stairs are floating. Look at that. Everything's floating down there. Absolutely everything. Now, let's start by seeing if we can get the steps back where they belong. Looks like I have about 18 inches down here. My boots are only 10 inches, so I'm gonna get soaked trying to get down here to rectify this issue. Everything's just floating in water. It's a good thing the valuable stuff is up off the floor, except for that one bucket of tools right there. Hopefully there's nothing in there that's been ruined. Everything else is either on the table or back there up. So I can't even get over to my pump, which I don't even know why. My pump is clear back there. See that? That's my sump pump and it ain't running. It's plugged in. I don't even know how to get back there because I have hip waders, but I'm pretty sure my hip waders are back there on the other side. Now that was poor planning on my part. But I don't know how the heck I'm going to get in here to pump all this out. This is ridiculous, and it's because my neighbors have flooded my house. What a mess from the flood. I got to clean all this up. So let's just get busy. Here, let's do this. I have a rake. Let's just get busy. Yeah, that worked pretty good, I think. Well, let's take a look at the problems, see what we got to do to fix them. Well, there seems to be no real end to the issues this basement has. I mean, there's erosion holes under the old concrete. The old concrete's all broken up. You can see a line right along here where it was patched in, where they made this mess. And it kind of goes jagged here back in behind those piles of trash bags. But everywhere on this part is absolute garbage. And this is a problem. I mean, that looks at first glance to be a pretty nice setup, right? Problem is, that over there is a good foot lower. And on top of that, this bin is solid concrete and no water can get through the sides. It has to come over the top. So as a result, I've got about a foot of water over here before it even thinks about pumping it out. And when the pump fails, which it does, you just saw that in the picture, you have to go from the stairs all the way to the other side of the basement through the water to get to the pump, to get the pump to work. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's not very good planning. There's several problems here that I don't like. So, what we're going to have to do, or what I'm going to have to do, because I know you're not going to do anything, you're just going to watch. I'm going to have to break out all this concrete. I'm going to have to remove that bin, to break this out all the way up to the crack. Remove all this broken and nasty concrete. Get it all out of here. Then using my laser level, I'll get it all level, the same level. And then, and only then, can I start remedying this problem by, doing something like digging trenches and putting drain lines in to a brand new sump. I'm gonna put the brand new sump right here next to the stairs where these garbage cans are. I'm just gonna dig down and put a sump in there that's connected to all the underground pipes. So all the groundwater will just go through those pipes and into the sump and get pumped out before water ever gets high enough to flood anything. And as far as the new surface, let me show you. Yep, pavers. I had a customer give me a whole truck full of pavers. It should be plenty to do my basement. Looks like fun. I think it'll work. Water should pass right through them and, shouldn't be an issue. One thing about old basements is they have a lot of history. For example, this one here used to have a fairly large window right there. You can see the outline right here. But when I bought this house, that was just an open hole. And if you look right down here in the corner, you'll see this little dip. And I didn't realize that this was a problem at first, because right about here is ground level. And so every time it rained, water would just pour in that hole, run down the wall, and flood the basement. And if you look up at the ceiling, you'll see that I have put in brand new floor joists all along here, hooked them to a brand new central beam, because pretty much everything from right here and that way, I completely tore down and replaced the whole half of the house. In doing so, I got rid of this post right here. So we have this little foundation post that I can rip out. And you can see I haven't done this side yet. And I probably am not, because none of this is rotten. This side is still in good shape, except for that beam right there is completely hollow. So I'll probably be replacing that with some of the timbers that I've already got here. You can see cracks in the old foundation that have been sealed up with hydraulic cement over time. But the biggest problem is outside, actually. Let's go take a look at outside. And you saw this from the flooding video, earlier in the video, the flooding problem we were having. This right here is a low spot. So water will pond up there and drain under the house into the basement and flood the basement. So what I've done is cleaned out this corner and built this little retaining wall here. And I know there's a hatch right there. I can't get to it anymore. I don't care. I put that hatch in there for possible access several years ago. I have never even looked at it or needed it, so I can get in from the other side if I need to. I need to change the grade of this. I need to fill this area in and make it so that water flows away from the house. Okay, so there's a lot of concrete down here to break up and haul out. Fortunately, it's very poor quality concrete, so it breaks up pretty easy. But that doesn't make it lightweight. So it's going to take some time for me to bust all this concrete out of here before I can even start digging, because I got to haul all of it up those stairs and haul it away. And I only have part of one day to work on this just about every weekend. So this is going to take a while. So there'll be an update at some point when I get farther along. But until then, it's going to be a while before I can fix my garage. It's time to turn on the tunes and get busy. Okay, that's a lot different than before. I've pretty much gotten rid of all of the evidence of the old substandard sump. So I do have this big block of concrete right here. Yeah, I don't think I can't seem to break it with the sledgehammer. I've been hitting it. It's just not moving. So it's too big for me to carry out. So at some point, I'll just dig a hole and throw it in the hole and cover it with dirt. And it can just live down here. As you can see in these pictures, I had to cut the concrete off in a relatively straight line, and then I had to dig down 18 inches. I had to put in some rebar, put in forms, build this wall to support things. And that all worked fine, but I had to remove all this other concrete that was in there, and I now have this massive pile of broken concrete outside because people had just kind of dumped concrete down here. I really wouldn't say they poured concrete. It's more like there was random batches that people would put down here. Like they'd go to the hardware store and buy all the bags that were broken open and bring them home, mix them up in a 5-gallon bucket and throw them on the floor and hope for the best. And the best did not happen. So anyway, we broke all that up, cut it off, poured this foundation, and man, look at it. It turned out really nice. It really did turn out nice. So then I decided I need to put a drain underneath the floor. So I dug this 10-foot long ditch across most of the basement, and I took a piece of 12-inch culvert that I got from a construction site. They were throwing it away. And I put that in there, cut a hole in the side of it with my hole saw, and stuffed the drain pipe in it, and then put down rock and covered it with silt screen. And then I backfilled on top of that. I leveled out and tamped using my trusty tamper. And I tamped all the floor. Well then, once I got it leveled using the laser level that I have, that my wife wonderfully bought me as a gift, I got it as within an inch all over the whole floor. And I started putting down pavers. Now, you think that's kind of an expensive thing to do in your basement. Not really, because as normal, I was at a client's house doing some work, and he had this huge pile of pavers, and I asked him what he was doing with them. And he said, well, you know, the guy who owned the house before me paved my entire backyard with pavers and didn't do any prep work. So when I got here, it looked like the surface of the moon. And so I just ripped them all out and put them in a pile, and I've been trying to give them away. And nobody seems to want to go through the trouble to pick them up. I said, well, I know a guy with a truck. Can I have them? And he said, well, absolutely. Get them off my property. Get them out of here. So I show up in a truck. We take 2 truckloads of pavers out of there. So I have all this big stack of pavers out here, and I'm going to use them somewhere. So here we go. I am going to put down pavers in the basement. That way, if water does get in here, it can soak through the pavers into the drain and over into the sump and get pumped out before I ever have water on the floor. That's a theory. We'll see. So then I start the paving process. I start in the corner and I start working my way out, and I got up to where there was a post. And my word, that post. It was in the way. The concrete was kind of funky. I wasn't real happy with the concrete around it, but I figured, you know what? I'll just trim it up a little bit, and then I'll pour another little skin over it level with the pavers, and we'll be good. That's not what happened. Nope. I started drilling, just like I did when I cut the other one. I drilled a series of holes in a row, and then I put railroad spikes in it and I broke it off in a straight line. Well, I thought I'd do the same thing since I don't have a concrete saw, and that worked pretty well. I figured I could just do a little bit of trimming around this. I can just drill a row of holes and then pound the railroad spikes in and bust it off in a straight line. Well, had my son over here helping me, and we knocked that out, and I'm drilling these holes, and instead of concrete dust coming out of those holes, I started getting sawdust. And I thought, now that's weird. Since when does concrete look like wood? And so I just kept drilling. I drilled the line, I busted it off, and I saw wood underneath my concrete. And I got to investigating. And that's how I ended up with this monstrosity. What happened, from what I can tell, is that the person who did this put the post in, set it all on wood, got it how they wanted it, and then dumped some concrete over the top of it to make it look like it had a concrete footing. Meanwhile, leaving everything on wood to rot away and collapse in the future when it wasn't his problem anymore. So anyway, that's got to come out. So that's where we're at right now.